The Ludgate Hub is Ireland's first rural digital hub. It was opened in summer 2016 and is located here in Skibbereen in West Cork, and provides a state-of-the-art 10,000 square foot co-working space with 1 gigabit super-fast fibre optic broadband connection brought to us by Vodafone and Zero. Our goal here in Ludgate is to facilitate the creation of 500 jobs in the West Cork area by 2025. To date, Ludgate has a very impressive track record in pursuing this objective with 130 jobs to date. For those of you who, some of you may know the facility, but for those of you who don't know, we have a fantastic co-working space here with many different types of members, some sole traders, we have consultants, we have startups, scaling organizations, we have students, second site companies, and many more. You can see me using my hands here in relation to all the different types of people that we have using the facility. And just recently, due to very high demand, we recently launched 8 private office spaces, which is a fantastic addition to our existing offerings. So just as I touched on earlier on, our long-term vision is also to make West Cork a centre of excellence for organisations, allowing them to work from here and to prosper at a global level from a rural location. So at this point in proceedings, I'm delighted to welcome our expert panellists, Damien Long, who is the CEO and founder of TravelMaster and West Cork Connect, and Greg Canty, who some of you probably will know, most of you probably will definitely know of Greg. He's the managing partner of Fuzion Communications. So guys, the format for our session this morning will be very much conversational, and we'll focus on some best practices and ideas to promote your business, which really for us all on our call this morning at our meeting have been really unprecedented times. Again, I think just to warn you all, we are all talkers. Myself, Greg and Damien really like to talk. So I'll warn you in advance. I'll try my very best to keep it in between the ditches, as they say, to keep it as close as we can to 11:30. So really what I'd like to do at this point, everybody, is we can kick off and get into the meat of our session. So what I'd like to do is maybe just hand you over to Damien, and Damien will give us and all your listeners and viewers just a kind of a sense of your background in your business. Damien, please, would be great. Thanks, Damien.
Hi, Daragh, thanks very much.
No problem.
Yeah, I suppose, look, just to give you a background in it, where I come from, I suppose, look, I come from the coach travel industry. I was born into a very established West Cork coach travel business that my parents started over 50 years ago. So I took it over from my dad in the early noughties. And I just, look, I suppose I was young, driven, had a bit of ambition that I wanted to do something different, you know. Coach travel was always the same, local school run, take a local football match, things like that. And I just thought there was more out there for people that we could do from West Cork. So I suppose I noticed a market that was there to take people to big events, you know, football matches, Munster final, All-Ireland finals, big concerts or national ploughing, things like that. I suppose I was lucky back in the early noughties that Cork were winning All-Ireland finals or getting there anyway, like, so it made my life a little bit easier back then, and the drive from people were there as well to go to all these games. So we were in Croke Park every year back then, like, but unfortunately we haven't seen that for a while. But like, I think we started, it wasn't easy to start. We wanted to take people to games, to those events. And I suppose we were the original idea of crowd power. We wanted to use crowd power where people didn't have to book 50 seats to go to an event. We would sell you your seat in 1s and 2s and allow then fill the bus, you know. So probably the original ride sharing model was done back in the early noughties. But advertising was the hard part, Daragh. You'd only one choice. It was the local newspaper. It was expensive, hard to get out there, wasn't easy to do. But look, we did it for a while, and as it got bigger and as we got more successful, we thought we have to go online with this. We have to make life easier for ourselves. And we opened up. We built a website. I knew nothing about websites or anything. We built a website back in late 2016. After going to a Ludgate event, that was the Digital Week in Skibbereen. I was introduced to a few people in Ludgate Hub that would build a website for me and help me along the way, and it was brilliant. It was the start of it. And look, we built the website. We took a year building the website. We started in late 2017, and within 2 years, we were selling over €1 million in seat sales, and we became Ireland's largest event travel company, the only nationwide event travel company. So, going from strength to strength. Unfortunately, as everybody knows, we got torpedoed by COVID, but listen, there's good days to come, and we're building for the future again now. So
great, Damien, and thanks, Damien. And what we'll do is, at the latter end of at the back end of our session this morning, we'll just maybe have a look at that in more detail. But thanks, Damien, and I know your dad, God rest him, before his buses and your business have been very well known throughout the high roads and byroads of West Cork, and definitely in the GA circle. So thanks, Damien, for that little bit of background. Greg, if again, similar to you, if you wouldn't mind, just a little bit of background, Greg, to you and your business and so on would be great. Thanks.
Hi, Daragh, and hello to Damien, and hello to everyone. And thanks for inviting me to the Ludgate Hub today. It's always great to come to West Cork.
Very well.
Yeah, I'm just going to give you a whistle-stop tour and some of my own story. I started off life as a 13-year-old delivering newspapers because a corner shop had closed down. And that just kind of shows you that things change all of the time and you need to adapt to them. I started off life as an accountant in a small accountancy practice in Cork City. I thought it was like Wall Street, which was fantastic. I went into industry and I ended up working for, actually in West Cork, a company called DC's. I was the financial controller there, I became the general manager. And I had a big interest in music. So at that time, I also had record stores around the country. And towards the end of 2000, I met the lovely Daragh Whooley, who had started a small little business down in Kerry called Fuzion. And effectively it was marketing. She wanted to give marketing services to companies who couldn't afford to do their own marketing, basically, or couldn't afford to employ someone full-time. So I convinced her to emigrate to Cork, which was a bit of a big deal.
Right.
And I actually loved what she was doing. And about 2 years later, I joined her full-time. So we've grown a nice business. I remember coming into the last recession, we just taken an office or a lease in an office on the South Mall in Cork. So I was back on the South Mall. I remember thinking, oh shit, here we go, recession, and we're committed to paying rent on a monthly basis. A few years later, we opened an office in Dublin. I just realized that when you consider media, no one took you seriously unless you were in the middle of the lion's den, I suppose. And what we did was we added to our service offering as time went on in response to what clients wanted. So now I describe us as being a full service agency. That's everything from, your brand design. Damien mentioned websites. We do PR, advertising, consultancy, social media. And from time to time when the wheels fall off the train, we do a bit of crisis PR as well. So it's that full service offering that we give to clients from Cork and Dublin. So that's me. Whistle-stop tour, Daragh.
Yeah, great, Greg, and a very, very interesting and very varied background. And thanks for that. And really, really interesting insights into starting off as a paper boy, which I know, God, going back a while when the days of people delivering papers and so on. So, Greg, thanks for that. So, guys, look, what I'd like to do now, really, for the next half an hour, really, up until the next 25 minutes, I suppose for our listeners, and really, I'm always very conscious, it's about our listeners, it's about our participants. And really, I suppose now, at this present moment, who could ever have foreseen what we're going through? So it's a question for you, really, Greg. I think something that I read, historically, where in times of tough times, people may look at training or look at marketing as being an area. So it's kind of saying, from your experience, Greg, is it very important to do it now? Is it now more than ever? And why would you think that's the case, Greg, if that's okay,
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah.
It's funny, Daragh, because I have a different perspective because I was an accountant once. Pound, shillings and cents and your fixed costs and your variable costs and all that kind of thing. And I remember during that last recession being in a typical function room in Cork City, and some of the accountants were in and they were advising all of the businesses what to do to survive the recession. And what they said was cut out unnecessary costs. And if you can imagine, the wheels had fallen off everything, and it was a big domino effect. And at that time, I remember it was one phone call after the next, clients cancelling their activity. And I remember this clever accountant telling, again, cut out your unnecessary costs. And we got a call from a client of ours. It was a big outlet center. And my client asked me, should we cancel our web hosting fee? 250, 300 euros or whatever a year. In other words, the website wouldn't be on the web anymore. It would just disappear. And I thought, for God's sake, no. You know, we're at the point where we're having stupid conversations. And it comes back to that question, as you were saying, you know, should you market at this time? It's the time when you should be marketing more than ever. And getting away from jargon, what I'd like to do is start using the language storytelling. And it's really, really simple. I'm going to go back to what Damien was saying. You know, if Damien wants to promote his business, he doesn't do it from a room in his house or in his office saying nothing to no one. You have to go out there and you have to tell people about who you are, remind people about your brand, and not let people forget about it. And even during the recession, or this recession, the COVID recession, I'm even noticing restaurants who could easily, and it's an attractive option, just close the doors, not get stressed. Let's just see this thing out and take your COVID supports or whatever. And when the lights come back on again and people can come into your restaurant, let's go out there. But I'm so impressed by so many of the restaurants who deliberately go, no, this is a place for us to evolve. Let's keep our brand alive. So when the lights do come back on again, we're still relevant to everyone. So back to that storytelling idea, I think you need to tell your story all of the time. And when times get tough, you need to tell it more than ever, because clients and customers are the hardest to come by at that point in time. Again, we're using this accounting kind of language, you know, the fixed costs and the variable costs. And I know we had a conversation earlier, Daragh. I love this idea of positive costs. And it's a bit of advice that I give to anyone in business. And this isn't an argument for spending loads of money, but it is an argument that when you look at all of the money that you spend in your business, including your own time, okay? Try and spend as much as possible of that in getting the wheels to turn and bringing business in. Because the minute you turn off that tap, your existing customer base who will know about you will get smaller and smaller and smaller. And before you know it, you've run out of runway, literally. So my thing is, always promote your business and invest in promoting your business. And even if that's your own time and energy doing things like social media, etc., it's important that you do that all of the time.
Thanks, Greg. And again, Damien, we'll expand the conversation as we move along, you know, later on. And as I said, that we'll be bringing you more and more into the conversation as we move along. And Greg, you know, I mean, people talk about all the different platforms. And I mean, I suppose the challenge at the moment out there is from LinkedIn to Instagram to Facebook to TikTok to, you know, all the different, as I smile as I say TikTok, because I'm not a TikToker, and my young sons are. But Greg, it can be frightening. Maybe that's maybe an extreme word, but it can be challenging, and I think it can take up a lot of one's time. You know, you guys are the experts here. I mean, what would some of the good ways, or maybe from your experience, you know, what's good, what's not, and how best to get your name out there? What do you think?
I'm going to use that storytelling analysis again, if that's okay, that Please. Analogy, Daragh. My first thing is know your story. Understand your target audience. Understand what you have to offer. And your job is communicating that. First and foremost, you need to get that word out there and communicate it. My starting point is have a logo that makes you look professional. Have a website that makes you look professional. Have social media accounts that make you look professional. So at least when anyone comes and has a look at you, that they think, at least this is a serious business operation. And the good news, that's never been cheaper than ever before to make yourself look good. It's not a big deal. And I know when Damien was talking about doing your first website, it probably cost a fortune at that time, Damien, and the functionality on it was fairly pathetic. It's a lot easier to do some of that stuff now with plugins and apps. And I know, Damien, in the conversation we had before we were organizing this thing, you were saying it was really important that people saw you as being a serious business. So you invested in your logo and a good website. So that was a starting point for you. And I thought that was clever.
Yeah, it's a major part of it. Yeah, major part of it.
Yeah, because people take you seriously then. You know, I'm a serious accountant. I'm a serious insurance broker. I'm a serious auctioneer. I'm a serious hair salon. Because I look the part, and that's really important. My next step, and this is so vital, that your story can be found. So if I ask Mr. Google, I might know that you exist, Daragh. I might know that there's a hub, a remote hub in West Cork. I might know that that's possible because I'm down from Dublin and I haven't heard the publicity and stuff. If I ask Mr. Google, remote hubs in West Cork, if you are the provider who can offer me that, you better be damn sure that you pop up when I do that search. So invest in making sure your website is optimized. It's not rocket science. Don't let anyone tell you it is. It's a simple enough process, but do that. And the second part that makes it easy is your Google ads. So at least you always pop up. My little simple phrase to people: if you can't be found, you're not in the game. So if you're available as a provider with a good website that looks the part, at least make sure that you can be found. So that's that second part. The next part is make sure that you tell your story, that you have a process within your business for telling your story. That might be sending emails out to prospects. It might be gathering a database and doing something like MailChimp and having a nice email newsletter. It might be as simple as doing your bit of networking and going on the phone. It might be as simple as going on social media and sending connection requests on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. It might be taking out an advert in the Southern Star, and I think that's what you were doing, Damien, in those early days to get visibility. And when I go back to that newspaper delivery boy, that was a really effective way of promoting your business because we all read newspapers. And of course, now we're doing different things. The process is no different. You know, I'm going to go fishing where the fish are, and I just need to figure out today, where do I think the fish are? And I think that's one of the questions that you're asking me. If there's exhibitions, if there's seminars, if there's networking like this, rock up and tell your story. The next little part about that storytelling process is engagement with your story, which is social media, you know, which is jumping on there, putting content out so people see that you're alive and you exist. You're hoping that an audience will come and follow you. But of course, when we set up these social media accounts, we all start with that dreaded number, which is zero followers. I need to get active on there so people will notice me. That's really important. And it's not telling your story there, but it's engaging. And the thing I tell people about social, a lot of the magic on it isn't what you say, but it's you reacting to other people. So for the sake of argument, if I'm down in West Cork as a marketing company, I'm after jetting in from the States, I know no one. My first activity will be to follow people in the business community in West Cork. And I'm going to be nice to them and I'm going to interact with them. And over time, the more I interact with them, the more they'll see who's this Greg Canty guy in Fuzion. And yeah, I might come and talk to you. And you might like me in the first instance. But bit by bit, you're getting to know me. You're getting to know my brand. And when it comes to that storytelling part, I think there's two elements to it. There's me as an individual, and there's my entity, which is Fuzion. So in both cases, I'm out there trying to get visibility. So that's our little storytelling process. And the last part is protecting your story or protecting your reputation. So that's how I see it. Now, you asked me a specific question about social media, Daragh. And the landscape has changed around social media an awful lot over time. It was easy. And I think, Damien, again, we had that chat. I think Facebook was magic for you when you began.
Yeah, it was brilliant at the start. Like, when it's changing, it's getting very hard to advertise. At the start, it was like picking fish out of a barrel. Like you could get to people very easily with Facebook, but it's just too much stuff on it now, and people just are not looking. Like, you know, and it's getting harder, Greg.
Yeah, but what I love about how you describe Facebook is that you understand how it works. You know, in the early days, you understood that I've got a page and people will like it. So when you post something, everyone's in there enthusiastic, they all get to see it. But what you know now is that hardly anyone sees it because of the algorithms. So Facebook now effectively is like the Southern Star, where once every week you took out your quarter page ad for your bus tours. Now you're probably spending some of that money running Facebook ads because you know they're not seeing your posts anymore. So the fish are there, but how you get to the fish is just a little bit different. And you've got the other social media channels obviously since. So I kind of break it down into a simple way. If you're a business to consumer or a business to community, Facebook is important to you, but that audience are getting older and you just need to be aware of that. And of course, it's show me the money time. If you think you're going to find your audience on Facebook, you need to have a little bit of advertising budget as well. The younger sibling of Facebook is Instagram. So business to consumer, business to community, I kind of wrap the two of those together. So I need to be active on both of them. And that's both pushing my story out there as well as interacting with others and taking that advertising budget. If I'm business to business, I'm talking LinkedIn and I'm probably talking Twitter as well. So all of those channels, all of those platforms can do a different job for you depending on the type of business. And sometimes you can be a bit of a mix and match. The one thing I would also say to every single business is Twitter in the middle. All of the journalists are in there. So one of the ways to get your message out there can be via the newspapers or the radios or the online publications. So part of the advice I give to every business is make sure some of your activity is warming up the local media and the local journalists and the local radio producers and all that kind of thing. And be friendly to them because, you know, if there's news breaking about transportation or whatever, Damien, you want to be one to get the phone call from the Southern Star or C103 or any of those things. So that's how I kind of view it. The likes of TikTok and all that kind of thing, I think, Daragh, just keep an eye on where the fish are all of the time. And if that works, we're not too, I don't normally bring those into our conversations with clients because we don't see them as being terribly relevant right now, but that could change and you just need to keep an eye on it all the time. The other little emerging thing that I just add to the mix is podcasting is emerging now. We have our own podcast. We're doing some for clients. If you've got the type of business where your advice and your expertise and your leadership can be expressed through a channel that you own yourself, that's powerful. So when I produce an episode of our Win Happy podcast, if you subscribe to it, it comes into you, no messing. It's not like the Facebook algorithms, Damien, that no one's going to see your stuff. Once they've subscribed, it's brilliant. If someone subscribes to your email newsletter, bang, you put something out, it drops into their inbox. There's no messing. So one of my pieces of advice is to try and control that route to your audience with your message all of the time, as much as possible.
Brilliant, Greg. That's a really super insight. I mean, again, we could expand this so much more. And just interestingly, Greg, just the very end you mentioned with podcasts, like, you know, I find that medium, I often explain it where it's listening to what you want, where you want, when you want. And we've actually launched our own podcast series, which is coming out next week, actually, ironically, a 6-part series. And I think it's a really, really good medium, as well as all the other different mediums that are out there. And Greg, thank you. That's a really, really, again, it's a whistle stop tour because each of them in their own way have a lot that we could expand on, you know, but that gives people just the importance of promoting your business and then some of the channels. And just what struck me too, Greg, was that the people are out there, you know, it's how to get to them, you know, that there's so many people and, you know, it's the face-to-face contact, especially now, but even that's becoming less and less over time to try to get to people. So thanks a million, Greg. So Damien, what I'd love to do, maybe just for the next, say, you know, 7, 8 minutes, it's really, Damien, maybe to share with myself and with Greg and with all our viewers and listeners. It's really, you know, we spoke before, Damien, because I know you use the hub here a lot, and we some great conversations. I'm always intrigued. I think you used the word torpedo, I think, which is it's not a funny word, but it strikes me as, so Damien, what I'd love to hear maybe around your business and, you know, pre-COVID and post-COVID, and I know to maybe give ourselves just maybe a sense of how you've, to use this fancy new word, pivoted I think, has been used an awful lot.
Yeah.
How you've changed and how you've tried to adapt, I think, would be great to hear your story, as Greg said.
Yeah.
Thanks, Damien.
Yeah, Daragh, I think actually just want to go back there. I can relate to a couple of things that Greg said there. It's interesting to listen to him talk because you remember parts of your business as he's talking. You're like, gee, because I can relate to that definitely, But look, I think one of the things you said there about being professional, and I think that was one of the things. And we went to a couple of entrepreneur programs and things, and they always spoke about the same thing. In business, surround yourself with great people. Surround yourself with people that are interested in what you're doing and people that are very good at it. Learn fast to keep those people and don't hold someone on for the sake of holding them if they're not good at what they're doing. But I was very, very lucky at the outset. I met a young guy who was absolutely brilliant at graphic design and doing different things like that. And I think only for him, we wouldn't have got as far as we did because, as Greg said, every time we put a post up, it was professional, Daragh. Every time, like, they look good, And I think the interesting thing was we were based down in West Cork. We were down in Skibbereen, a small little company who was becoming nationwide. But people in Sligo and Waterford and Galway, they all thought we were this huge nationwide company. They all thought we were actually part of the whole Ticketmaster brand and everything, which we weren't. But we didn't put up amateur posts. We made sure that every time we put something up, we look big, we look good. And I think if people think you're big, they'll trust you. And if they think you're good, and if you put the effort in, that's where you get there. And that's what Greg was saying. It's very important. For us as well at the moment, just come back to what Greg said as well, advertising at the moment, like you're saying to yourself, don't advertise at the moment, I would say, in my own eyes, because, concerts are gone. Football matches are gone. Nobody's thinking about them. But, if you ever went to a Keith Barry event, he's always on about your subconscious. Like, your subconscious is always take it in. So even if you're rolling through Facebook or Twitter and you're seeing a TravelMaster ad coming up there, you mightn't have an interest, you mightn't see it, but you actually are taking it in. So that when all this comes back in 12 months time or 6 months time, it's in your head, it's the first thing you'll come and you'll think about. I think, Greg, you can probably relate to that with advertising, maybe.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But what I jump in as well there, Damien, said to you, and I love that obsession you had about making sure that every single post you put out there looked the part. One of the expressions we use with clients is never write a check to make yourself look bad. And the Southern Star might ring you saying, Damien, last minute offer, we've a bit of space there in one of the papers, a last minute cancellation. You can run an ad and say, oh God, I don't have the graphic design done up for an advert. Don't worry at all. We'll run the ad for you. Just send us your logo and a bit of text. And before you know it, you've run the ad and they put it together and it's just not you. It looks terrible. It's not part of your normal brand. The people that see it, it just makes it look really, really poor. And that's a case of writing a check to make yourself look bad. Getting business cards done really, really simple, and you get them done cheap and cheerful. And you're like, God, aren't I brilliant? I got business cards for $5.99. And you hand it to someone. And this is really unusual. If you can imagine, I'm chatting to you at that networking event down the hub. And I hand you my business card and you take a look at it. And I'm delighted because I got them from $5.99. And you have that conversation in your head. And of course, you never say it to me, Damien. You say to me, yeah, do you know what, Greg? You're Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
And
yeah, you see it straight away.
Yeah, we have those conversations all of the time. And one thing that has changed since those newspaper days that I was telling you about, media is clattering us from so many places. And our ability to consume media is the same. We only have so many waking hours in a day. So your opportunity to catch someone's attention is tiny. We're in a very attention poor world. So when you do put your ads or your social media posts or however you want to reach someone, you need to be very sharp with your messaging to catch someone's attention straight away. So frequency keeps your brand relevant and top of people's mind. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
But your messaging needs to be tight. Like for me, it wasn't a huge accident that Donald Trump got voted in, Make America Great Again. So if you can imagine to an attention poor audience in the United States who wanted something different, he gave them a simple idea. You know, Brexit in the UK, let's get our country back. There were simple ideas to sell people in a time poor, attention poor world. My God, that sounds fantastic. I'll have 2 of them, please. Just make it really easy, snappy. Don't overcomplicate things. You know, have good logos, sharp, nice messaging, nice slogans, simple messages, quality, as you were saying.
Yeah, I think from the very outset, Daragh, you're building a brand. You gotta, and that's the major thing. But like, I suppose, look, to get to your question on how we the word pivoted, or how we did, like, just go back and look. Yeah, in the early noughties, it was we were taking people to the events. And I remember in 2003 or 4, I said, you know, we have to make life easier here for us, because I was driving along the road, and, you know, we were advertising the paper, but I had a dictaphone and people were ringing, and you were saying, you know, 2 seats to the match on Sunday. And my mother was at home and in the office answering her phone, writing down a list of names. And, you know, when the bus was getting towards being full, we were like, gee, have we a seat left? And we'll ring you back. And look, it was heartbreaking stuff, like, you know, trying to do it. And I remember saying back then, we got to make this easier. And I actually bought the domain name for TravelMaster back in 2004. Spent a lot of money trying to build a website at the time. And I opened it and I closed it as quick as I opened it, because I knew we were too early. It wasn't going to work. The advertising still had to be done through the Southern Star or through the local newspaper. So it was no advantage. But I suppose as time went on, I put it on one side for a while, and we continued to do it the way we were doing it. And then Facebook was the big thing that came along. And I just noticed I was using Facebook more for local things that I was doing with buses, like discos, local festivals, local football matches, and it was gathering traction. It was great. Like, I was like, geez, this new tool is amazing, like, you know. And but I was afraid of websites. I was really afraid of opening a website. I knew nothing about it, like. And as I said to you earlier, I went to the digital week that was organized by the Ludgate Hub, and I was walking around a bit lost in it, but I met 1 or 2 guys, and I was introduced, and some people in the hub introduced me to people that were good at building websites. And you know what, they sat down and they explained it to me in layman's terms, and then I could understand, like, you know, I understood how it worked, and I understood that you had to be top of Google and all that, but I was still afraid of it. But, you know, we said we'd try it, and we did spend a bit of time building. We wanted to build it right, and we spent about a year building the website. But from then on, I'd never turn back. You know what I mean? We did it, we put it together, and we put it out there, and we used Facebook as that tool, and it was brilliant. As Greg said a while ago, it's getting harder now every day to get to people or to advertise, but you have to know your audience. I mean, we've got a very different audience, because when we go to a young concert like Justin Bieber, it's everybody from 14 all the way up to 25, we'll say. But when we got an All-Ireland final, it could be an 80-year-old, 60-year-old, 70-year-old is going to it. So we have to know our audience, you know. And that's why we have to try and decide, do we advertise more on Facebook? Do we try and get to Instagram? You know, what do we do? And look, Instagram is good, but it's very hard to take a cool picture of a bus and people like it and put it on Instagram, like, you know. Nobody wants to see it, like, only myself, like. So and it's starting to get harder again. We went through a couple of years of it being easier to advertise, but it is starting to get harder. But the guys like Greg in Fuzion, they know the ways around this, because that's their life. That's what they do every day. So if you think that you can waste money yourself and saying, listen, I won't get a good guy, or I won't get a professional guy to help me out here, be careful of it, because Facebook will hold you accountable to bad ads. They won't show it. You'll think you're showing it to thousands and thousands of people. You're actually not. So, like, make sure you spend that money wisely. I think that's what we did. And I think we just changed from the pen and paper to the digital side of the business, and it's the future. We've spent the last 12 months while we've been locked down trying to build it better again, building apps, building a better website, building a better booking system, because people don't want to pick up a phone and ring you anymore. They don't want that. They want to just be able to go on, touch a button, and it's booked. You know,
and sorry, Damien, sorry for cutting across you. Just in full flow, Dame, but just one little thing, maybe just for a minute or so, if you could share just something resonated with me, and thank you for your insights up to that. Just around, you know, like your booking system, I think it's something that I think it's so simplistic, but you know, where you can, if I think of nowadays, as you said, booking a hotel, you know, booking a holiday, you go on, you click, you want to see it, but you know that you can pick your seat. And to me, like that sounds so simple. I know the bigger carriers do it, but you mentioned before stag parties, Damien, and people trying to pick up the phone. And so maybe just explain, maybe just, you know, so you can go on and literally pick your seat. Isn't that as simple as that? And
yeah, well, look, yeah, for what we do is, I suppose it's event based, so you know what you're going to. You know you're going to a football match, or you know you're going to again a Justin Bieber concert. So you can go on our website, click the event you're going to, and it's very simple. It asks you what county you're going from, how many seats you'd like to book, and it gives you the time. Press a button, pay your money, and it's all booked. And we have a full record of who's traveling for the drivers, and you get a ticket, same as an airline ticket. You're scanned on your bus, and but we're trying to improve it all the time, and we're building a lot of technology for the future that's going to be really, really good. Like, you know, where parents will know if they have young kids going to Dublin for the first time, they'll know if they've got back on the bus safely. They'll be scanned on, and they'll get a report to say they're on. Different things like technology that will walk you right back to the door of your bus after an event. Some big concerts, you could have 500 white buses parked in a field, and when you're looking at 1 o'clock in the morning, you can't find the bus you came off of. So we've got technology being built at the moment that will actually get you to the door of the bus, not just the car park. So look, we're always trying to get better at it, like, and you have to start somewhere, and you have to build, and it's going to take a while to get there, but slowly but surely we will. Like, and I think the future is all technology. Look, if you're not going to be online in the future with a very good online business, forget about it. And the bus business is one of those we've been looking into, and we are expanding for the future, where that local bus you book to that stag party or that hen party, or, you know, even a school going to an open day for a school, like the days of picking up a phone and ringing the local bus operator, that's going to disappear. Look, the people who stay at that are dinosaurs. It's going to go. They're going to become extinct because they're afraid to change.
yeah,
So we're hoping to go down that road.
yeah, and Damien, I just see from you, you know, your passion and your enthusiasm, and in fairness to you, you know, that you have pivoted, as I use that word again. I'm not going to use it anymore, but and I think that's what's coming through to me, Damien, that, you know, one can stay the same, but it's hard to change at times, but to you know, to kind of embrace it as opposed to resist it. Guys, it's just coming up to 11:26, so I promised everybody that we'd have this finished by as close as we can to 11:30. So there's loads of questions coming through, and before I ask the question, guys, we have literally 1 minute, so each of you can take it, but we can see who likes the question as it comes in here. So something's come here. It's just, I read it out here to you. So for small micro companies with tiny teams and tiny budgets, what's the quickest and easiest and cheapest no-brainer way of marketing? That's it. That's a question.
It's you, Greg.
So. So that's it. Yeah. So money, tiny budgets. What's the best and cheapest way to get your name out there? Yeah.
Social media, Daragh, with all of the team.
Right.
The accounts for the individuals are just as important as the account for the entity or the company. One of the things I say to clients, people like talking to a person rather than talking to a logo. If it's business to business, make sure all of them have very, very proactive accounts on LinkedIn. Twitter accounts are really, really important. All that's probably less so in terms of Facebook and Instagram. Yeah, but social media, lots of time and effort. Yeah.
Super, Greg, super. And I know, Greg, you're heading on. You popped out to another event now straight after this. So thanks for the update on that. Guys, look, it's just 11:28. I said at the very start of our conversation, I like to talk, Damien likes to talk, Greg likes to talk. So I think we could keep talking for the next God knows how long, but that's not what this is about. It's about you, the listeners, and the people that have dined in, that have dialed in. So just to say, thank you so much, Damien and Greg. I mean, there's so much more we could have talked about, but I think it gave people just the snippets of the importance of getting your name out there. You know, how you've changed your business, Damien. Greg, in relation to the different channels, and how to work on that. So guys, just to kind of maybe to head towards the end of our event, you know, just to share with you, we have some very exciting events coming up again in March, April, May, and June. So it's really good events. And just again to say that thank you all so very much for taking the time out of your busy schedules this morning. And just to sign up to our newsletters, you can follow us on social media channels and also contact us at info, that's info, info@ludgate.ie. And the last thing for me really is that please, we're here to help, be it co-working spaces, be it hot desking, be it, you know, we really want to help. So anything you need in relation to our core philosophy is to, it's rural regeneration to create jobs for Skibbereen and West Cork. So please contact us, as I said here, and we'd be delighted to help. So we're just bang on 11:30. So again, thank you all, and I particularly thank you, Damien and Greg, for your time. Very much appreciated. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Greg. Talk to you later. Thanks.
See you later. Take it easy, man. Cheers.
Thanks a lot.